Hi, everyone. It is Stacy from Achievers Prep, and welcome to this edition of It's All Education, the video podcast. And if you're listening via Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, it is also going to be available wherever you listen to podcasts in the audio version. But if you want to watch the video and you want to see our smiling faces, mine and my esteemed guests, you can check this video out on our YouTube channel at It's All Education. So if you come here and you like the video, we want you to like it, make a comment, subscribe, and share. All right, let's get started. We are continuing with our financial literacy series with the final installment of the discussion we were having about creating generational wealth. We started out creating a generational wealth mindset because, as you know, with anything you go to do, you got to have a mindset to do it. Okay, you got to have your mindset that you're going to do it. So the next part of that was creating generational wealth and finding out what steps you need to take first and what you need to do and how you need to look at money. So we're going to still go along the same vein with that topic today with my special guest who is returning again with us. It is none other than Joe Grant. Joe is a lifestyle and legacy advocate, but what he actually gets paid to do is be an investment advisor. And that is the key to why Joe is here with us today. Joe is going to be able to tell us about money. We're going to talk a little bit about good and bad debt. Isn't that right, Joe?
That's it. Good
All right.
day, everybody.
All right. Well, I'm going to step back and allow the professionals, the experts, to be the experts and to guide you at this moment. So the next voice you will hear will be none other than Joe Grant, our lifestyle and legacy advocate and our investment advisor. Take it away, Joe.
All right. Thank you so much. So yes, let's continue that conversation, the one that exists between you and I.
Yes.
And everybody else could just kind of just listen in.
Yes.
On what we're calling Wealth Wednesday. So I'm going to start off with a bad four-letter word. Debt.
A bad four-letter word. I don't know if we can do that.
Four-letter word.
Let me get my beeper ready. Okay.
It's debt. Debt is the bad four-letter word.
Oh, yeah. Debt. I don't like debt.
It's hard to invest when you're always paying off debt. And usually the debt that most people accrue is usually higher than the interest rate they're getting or could have gotten had they been out of debt and were just straight investing. Here's a question. Usually people don't hesitate, they don't hesitate to get into debt if they're going to buy a house or buy a car. And the reason why is because they don't have the cash. The 300 grand, the 400 grand, 500 grand house, most people don't peel it off and it's like, all right, give it to me. So usually they finance it. What people don't understand is debt can be used in a good way.
Okay.
And just basically have to get into a position where not just money, but debt itself is working for you and making you money.
Okay, now you're gonna have to explain that. You're telling me that my debt can work for me?
Yes. Let me give you just we'll give a small bite-sized piece on this.
Okay.
To a piece where maybe some people can relate. So we'll start with a simple explanation of good debt. So let's say you had the opportunity to borrow $100,000, 100 grand from the bank with 0% interest, and you could pay back that loan over 1,000 months. Would you borrow the money, and what would you do with it?
Okay, I would say yes, I would borrow the money, but I would pay it back sooner.
Yes is the correct answer. And probably, so here's the thing, because some people would pay it back, but you could also invest it and make money.
Now that would be smart debt. That to me would be, smart debt or good debt.
And so the conversation that we probably need to have, not just between you and I, but dining room table, professional table sitting across from the advisor, is to how to use debt and not have debt control our lives.
Okay.
So here's an acronym to help people kind of get clear on good debt.
Okay.
I'm sure you've heard of aloe vera. So ALOE, ALOE. Assets minus liabilities equals owner's equity.
Oh, that's
So
good.
whatever your assets are, minus your liabilities is basically your owner's equity. And another name for that is net worth. Net worth is kind of a buzzword that a lot of people, it perks their ears up, not necessarily one that a lot of people understand. Because if you had $100,000, but you were 200,000 in the hole, you don't really have a net worth of 100 grand.
Right.
So assets minus liabilities equals owner equity, ALOE, or net worth. So let's say back to the assets part. So if you got the $100,000, and I'll put a disclaimer as I go through this, but the key is, what are your assets doing? So you borrowed the house, you borrowed the $100,000, and so you got $100,000 in your hand. And so it's like, what are you doing with it? And like from our last conversation, most people, if they're not doing like you, paying it off to accelerate the time and get rid of it instead of 1,000 months, usually they're going to put it in a bank or a credit union. And from our last conversation, we know that that's not really the best place to put your money. And so here's a way. If you had $100,000 house and you had zero mortgage, meaning no liability, then basically you got $100,000 net worth. The problem with that is it's a dead asset. And what makes it a dead asset is it's worth something, but it's not making you money.
Right. It's not living and growing and multiplying and getting bigger. I'm with you. Okay.
So the house itself will appreciate in value, but the equity itself is doing nothing. So let's take the same example. You borrow $100,000 against the house. And so now you got $100,000 cash. You got $100,000 mortgage liability, but you still have $100,000 net worth. However, the net worth is the same, but you have assets making money now. So the trick becomes, if the $100,000 is invested and it makes any money at all, now you're at a bonus in your net worth. And if you get a high enough interest, you can have your interest pay off your debt.
Okay.
So now you're growing your net worth, you're lowering your debt, and you have your money working as hard as you are, probably, to help pay that off.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that totally makes sense.
Okay, so that's kind of the reason I'm emphasizing good debt versus bad debt. Now, here's the disclaimer.
Okay.
If you're listening to me, do not run out and take $100,000 against your house and start investing. Do not do that. That was just for illustration purposes.
Okay, all right. That was an illustration, not an instruction. An illustration, not an instruction.
Exactly. Just to get people to understand, because we don't want people to be like, and I took out all this money on my house and no, we're not doing that. That was just understand the principle in good debt and how you can have money paying off your debt. So just want to put that out there.
Okay.
Also need to differentiate the difference between saving versus investing versus trading. Because last time we talked about trading is not investing. So all of you that are into these new quote unquote ways of growing your money, if you will, we won't name anything like Bitcoin. Not saying that it's a bad thing. All I'm saying is, if you're sitting behind your computer or your laptop, whatever you do your quote unquote trading on, and every day you're looking to see whether you're up and down, or you're trying to get in and out, you're trading, you're not investing. Because most people who invest do it for the long haul.
Right.
Most people who save just put it in one place and let it sit.
Okay.
But letting it sit isn't necessarily good if you're not getting a good interest rate on what you're doing.
Okay.
And
All right.
so people who have like high interest debt and low interest savings is why 90% of Americans retire broke. So we need to
Okay.
reverse the cycle and reverse the results and break the cycle. So how do we break the cycle? Well, if you borrow at 12% and your savings growing is at 3%, and we know from the last talk, most people are not getting 3%, basically you're in the fastest way to a financial disaster.
Oh, okay. You got to keep me from disaster, Joe. I don't like disaster.
Yeah, that's a crash that's going to happen. Not might happen, that's going to happen. Borrow at 12 and only getting 3, yeah, that's not good. However, if you borrowed at 3 and you were getting 8%, now you're ahead of the curve.
Okay.
And so we want our money to make us money. And
Yes.
if maybe make the debt make us money.
Okay.
So to get a basic understanding, and this is for the homeowners now. Those that don't have homes, we're going to come back to you. I didn't forget about you. We're going to come back to you. And so with mortgages, for the people that are about to buy a home, usually the 30-year mortgage is good. And the reason why the 30-year mortgage is good is because it keeps your payments low.
Okay.
And we touched on this in the last one. So if you guys missed the last conversation, you need to go back to Achievers Prep, and you need to go back and listen to the previous conversation to bring you up to speed.
Yes.
Was that a plug? Well, anyway.
Yes. A shameless plug. A shameless plug.
You need to go back and listen to what Stacey was bringing to you guys to help you stay on the right track. So back to the present.
Okay.
Get the 30-year mortgage because the payment is much lower than a 15-year mortgage. And if you run on hard times, chances are you'll be able to maintain. And from the last conversation, if your payment is X amount, and if you break it in half and you pay it 2 times in a month, the same amount, it reduces your interest rate and gets you out of debt faster.
Yes, and we like that.
Details, yes, for the full details, you need to go back and listen to the last one. But we're glad you're here with us today.
Right.
So also down the road, the payment becomes easier to make because our earnings, hopefully, will increase. So now accelerating the mortgage, if you make that extra principal payment, that also brings it down. And so that's some of the things you can do, some strategies for those of us that are homeowners to help you get ahead of the curve. Okay. But again, I am not stressing this. I am not telling you to go get a mortgage against your house. And I'm not saying gamble it. I'm not saying trade it. I'm not saying let's sit on it. I'm just saying these are options.
Right.
Not the rule.
Right. And we need options. Options are good because then you're not trapped and forced into a decision because you have none. We like options.
Yes, and you're not calling Stacey and screaming at her. Where's that guy Joe? Go out there and get him. We're not trying to do that.
Yeah, we don't want a lynch mob coming after Joe.
That's right.
No.
Right. So we're going to keep putting the disclaimer out there because if you missed it the first time, saying it again. Okay, so coming back. So if you have a high interest credit card debt, and some of the money needs to go to that too, because most important thing is to be saving money. So debt from a credit card's position, sometimes you need money for emergencies. Mm-hmm. So if you run across a situation where you got a high interest rate and you can roll that over to a lower interest rate, by all means do that.
Right.
By all means doing that. And then, paying the extra, every single way that you can look at your finance and trim away some of the fat, trim away some of the bad stuff, and be able to put it towards the good stuff, be it either reducing debt and or getting your assets or your net worth up is always a good thing.
Right. Okay, gotcha. I'm on track.
Okay. So I just want to put out that short, hopefully simple explanation of good debt, bad debt, leveraging money, growing your assets to make sure that you have more assets than liability, ALLO, increase your net worth. Because basically, if you build equity in the house and it just sits there, you basically can't retire on the equity in the house.
Right. You got to be doing something with it, right?
Do something with it.
Right.
Now,
that's like taking the equity and investing it.
Right. So some people, again, this is not advice. You probably want to talk to your financial advisor if you have one. You want to talk to your accountant if you have one, so that you don't make any financial mistakes. Because I don't want y'all calling me saying, Joe said, okay, just there'll be the constant disclaimers throughout.
Right. And that is what you are as a financial advisor. So they could always seek your services. But right now we are just providing information.
This is education.
Right? This is education.
Education.
It's all education. All right, let's go.
Education. We're not selling nothing, and we're not putting it out there. We're providing concepts and ideas that you can take forth to do good, in your life. So
that's right.
Final 2 points on the debt part, and then I'm going to talk to the people who either don't have homes or trying to position themselves. So this strategy basically itself is just to get you to, pay off the mortgage payment, invest the extra cash towards an emergency fund, because there will be an emergency.
Inevitably.
Later.
There may even be a pandemic.
And everybody knows about light storms. You're either in the storm, you just came out of the storm, or the storm is coming.
Right.
But that's the way and a fact of life.
Right.
And so not advertising, taking large sums of money and paying off a low interest rate. You don't want to leave yourself cash poor.
Right.
That's the other extreme.
Right.
So just remember the formula, seek counsel with your professional person, and lay it out on the table, so that together you and your financial team can come up with the best financial advice. Hope that helps you guys that are like doing that whole getting your mortgage and your financial life and debt thing together.
Yes.
And so now we'll talk about individuals who may not be in that space, but are still conscious about debt and investing and saving and trading and all that other stuff.
That's right. That's right.
You know what? I wrote a note to myself. I wanted to tell you about a personal friend. Okay.
I like real world examples. Is this an example or a reference?
This is a personal story about a friend.
Okay.
Who had a scenario, and he was more mature, because last talk I spoke about those individuals who were like millennials and younger, and Stacy and I had a conversation. She's like, well, what about us that are a little more mature? So I'm going to tell you about a story about my friend, Mr. X. I'll call him Mr. X. So Mr. X, at the time, him and his wife, he was 57 years old. 57 years old, self-employed. He had a service company. And he had been working 40 years, and he had probably about $100,000 in assets.
Okay.
And he's slightly older, and he's feeling the strain of working. And so in his service business, he was basically doing like home maintenance, refrigeration, stuff like that. So you can't really be falling off of rooftops at 57 years old, getting hurt and bouncing back.
No, right?
How much longer he'd be able to work due to health and probably physical limits.
Right.
So he was eager to learn how to improve his odds.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like a sponge for information, because this is information, this is education. And so in 5 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 years. 5 years. Okay.
That 100,000 grew to $850,000
in 5 years.
in 5 years.
Now, this is a hypothetical, or
No,
this
is real life.
This is a real world example.
Real world example.
Okay, I'm gonna need them tips and tricks. I'm gonna need you to go ahead and pull that rabbit out the hat for me like that. Let's talk.
And so at the age of 62, he sold his business and retired.
Okay. And he started out 57.
Started at 57 with 100 grand.
Okay.
Retired
57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62. Okay, got it.
Now, like we talked about in the last session, people that don't make smart money moves, sometimes you'll see them later in life. You'll see them in a certain place with arches talking about, do you want cream and sugar in your coffee in the morning? Or you might see them at one of those stores welcoming you as you come in. Well, now it's 25 years later. He's still retired, still lives the same lifestyle as before, and his portfolio now is worth more now than it did before. So now you have to think, his major thing now is, now I still got money. So imagine having money, spending money, not beyond your means, but spending money and still having money come in so that you can constantly replenish. This is how we build wealth and can leave stuff for the next generation.
Right.
Brings us back to the rule of 72, which we talked about briefly last time. So if you're joining us again for the first time now, go back and listen to that, but I'm gonna give you the short version. Okay. Ready? Here we go. Short version. Rule of 72, AKA Banker's Rule, basically forwarded to our consciousness through Einstein. You know Einstein, pretty smart guy, very good with math. And so with him, he was saying that interest, particularly compound interest, is one of the greatest forces on the earth, in the world. So, homework assignment for everybody listening, call your financial institution, find out what your interest rate is. Short example. If you're getting anywhere from, say, 6 to 12%, divide that, your interest rate, into 72, tells you how many years it takes your money to double. So, remember, he had 5 years and his 100 grand grew to 850. So, using this same rule of 72, on a 12-year, 12% divided into 72, your money will grow in 6 years. So imagine at the minimum, you're getting 12%, but in the maximum, you're getting more than that. So now your interest rate is growing at a much faster rate. Your money is growing at a much higher rate. And that's how you can move along that corridor, that timeline, much faster with that kind of money. That's your educational tip. Make sure that, number one, you're getting the highest and best interest rate that you can. Number two, make sure that you're basically out of debt. And if you have any kind of debt, make sure it's good debt versus bad debt. And if you're in bad debt, try to go from whatever high interest rates you got into something that's low. So either roll it over, convert it, yes, to get that down so that it will allow you to pay that off, and possibly there's enough money so that you can invest and you can hammer it on both ends of the spectrum. I hope you guys were listening, and if you got any questions, Stacey, fire away.
Let me tell you, that was as plain and as simple as it gets. Like, even I can understand, good and bad debt. And my question initially was, how are you talking about my debt's going to work for me? But I do get it. If you're speaking about debt and you're speaking about good debt, you're speaking about debt that continues to offer a vehicle for growth or a way to still grow your wealth and a way to invest and possibly increase your wealth in that way, then yes, by all means, I certainly understand that that is a good debt and that it's a debt that is working for me. So even I don't have any questions to that. And I think that you have just dropped some gems for anyone who doesn't feel financially savvy. They feel like they're not really sure how they can overcome the debt that they're currently in. You've basically given us some tips and some tricks. They're not necessarily tricks because there's no magic here.
Strategies.
Yeah, there's strategies. There's no magic here. There's no hat, there's no bunny, there's no waving of the wand. This is simply a process of getting from one place to the next, getting from a place of being in debt, being in bad debt, to a place of having wealth and multiplying what you do have and creating that, trying to create a legacy in that. And you also, Joe, mentioned previously, I don't know if they were listening, but if not, go back and watch the previous video. But if you mentioned before that you are a lifestyle advocate, meaning that you're not trying to come and tell someone, I don't want you to live now to prepare for later, to build for later. What you're saying is, I want you to look at how you live now, modify how you're living now. And if rather than buying that Dolce & Gabbana bag that I might want next month, since I didn't get it this month for my birthday, but rather than buying that Dolce & Gabbana bag, I could take the equivalent of what I would have spent on that bag and invest it in something that's going to pay me and work for me, right?
Right. And then have the money that it pays you, use that to go buy your bag.
So I still have my lifestyle and I still get my Dolce bag.
And you still get your bag.
Right. But at the same time, I'm building my wealth.
And you're building your wealth.
I love it.
The alternative is most people would see the bag, want the bag, they charge the bag. And so credit cards themselves usually have a high interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
Mortgages have a fixed interest rate. So that's why mortgages themselves are considered good debt. It's a fixed amount. It's the same amount. It doesn't rise. It's not usually extremely high. And so that's a good debt. So if you took the same amount of money that you would have paid for it via credit card, if you invested that, you got a great return on it. You're growing your net worth, and the investment vehicle itself pays for the bag. So you got the bag, you got lower debt, and you increased your net worth. That's a win all the way around.
Right. Rather than charging the bag and paying for the bag twice and paying and having the bag is not something that's going to appreciate. It's not going to increase in value at all. In fact, because I've purchased it, it's going to depreciate. It's going to decrease in value. It'll increase in value in my heart, but I'm not going to be able to take that same bag and sell it for what I paid for it or more. I'm going to have to charge less, obviously, and take less for it. So yes, I think I totally get it.
So yeah, this is the time where you should be able to live your best life and still be able to do good, still be able to grow, still be able to, you want to take the vacation. How much does a vacation cost? How much is it going to cost? Where do you want to go? And when do you want to go? So let's just say the vacation costs $2,000. All right.
Now that's a pretty cheap vacation, Joe. I don't know where you're planning on going.
It's a staycation.
Oh, it's a staycation. It would have to be, honey.
It's a staycation. So we're flying somewhere local, and you might do a hotel for 2 nights, do dinner, etc. And so you could get that all in a little bit of time. Okay. However, if you take some money, and we'll say, if you did overtime, tax refund, you got that unexpected gift, whatever the case may be, and you take that and you quote unquote good leverage it, invest it. Mm-hmm. And so if your vacation's a year from now, because you can only take but so many vacations a year, if, you're regularly employed, you're looking at it long term, the investment, the extra money, whatever it grows to, will pay for your lifestyle.
Right.
And if it's $5,000, just make sure that you're diligent about it. You put the money aside, make sure that it's a good vehicle to grow your money. And when you're ready to go, that'll help pay for, if not completely, partially of what you want to do. So yes, lifestyle absolutely advocate. You do not have to live a life of poverty to not enjoy life and put everything aside and live your best life now.
In order to build wealth.
Strategies so that you could do it.
Right. Right. I'm telling you, this was priceless, Joe. Again, I have to commend you. I have to clap and give you all the kudos, because what you have said, it does seem very basic, but it is information that not everyone has yet mastered or not everyone understands. And I think it makes it a lot more relatable if you can give us a real world example like you did. I mean, hey, just hearing that and knowing that it's possible for me to be able to do that changes my mind already. I'm already thinking like, wow, like, yeah, once we get off this call, I need to be finding out what steps I need to take so I can go in that direction, because I would love to retire in 5 years, probably sooner, but 5 years at least, at the very least. So I just want to say thank you, Joe. I mean, this is valuable information. It is educating people. They have the options. They have the information. And like I said, Joe will not promote himself, but I'm going to promote him. I'm going to say he is a financial advisor. That is how he puts meat on the table, bread on his plate. That's what he gets paid to do. He's a financial advisor. So if the people out here listening to us, if they're impressed by what you've said, or they're just like me and they're like, look, I need to get a hold of Joe because I need to do what Mr. X did. Tell the people how they can reach you, Joe. We know automatically they can reach out to us, but how can they reach out to you, Joe, if they want to get in touch with you?
Okay. So first off, if you like, and I know I'm putting his business out there, if you like, I could bring my friend for the next cast and podcast, and he can give you his own living personal testimony.
I would love that.
Okay. All right. I'll work on that. I'm gonna have lunch with him on Sunday.
Okay.
I partially put his business out there and see what he says.
Well, let him know. Let him know. We would love to have him come tell his story. If nothing else, he needs to come and at least show me that it's possible. You know what I mean? Right, I'm not from Missouri, but I believe in that. Show me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm not from Missouri, but I believe in show me.
So we will definitely, I'll have that conversation with him. And since I'll be here next Wednesday, hint, hint, next week, I'll try and see if I could get him to join me on Wednesday.
Okay.
Now, to answer your question, to reach me, my email is J like Joe, J Grant, Grant, like the guy on the $50 bill. MGMT, short for management, 1 at gmail.com. J Grant Management, MGMT1 at gmail.com.
Okay, and Joe, do we have a phone number for you as well, so we can reach you by phone? If you want to
be more personal, text or just call and say hi. It's 954-839-4471. Again, that's 954-839-4471. That's how you can reach me. This has been fun. Can't wait to come back next week and, give some more education, because it's all about
education. It's all education.
All education.
It's all education. And actually what we are talking about doing, I heard you mention just briefly, you kind of gave them a little tidbit, you gave them a little hint that we are going to be doing this we're going to try to do this once a week on Wednesdays, and we're going to be calling it a Wealth Wednesday. So yes, Wealth Wednesdays. We are going to be coming to you to offer on Wednesdays a way for you to build and grow your wealth. So now that we've got you in a mindset of being wealthy, we're going to help you get there. We're going to give you some tips, and tell you the path to take to get there. I love it. I love it, Joe.
Yes, we're gonna do that. We're going to do that. Yes.
All right. Well, that does it for us for this Wealth Wednesday and the conclusion of our financial literacy, because going forward, you're not going to say that you're financially illiterate any longer. There's no way you can walk away from this information, from these videos that we've shared. And if you've missed any of them, go back to YouTube and watch the previous videos. You will not be financially illiterate any longer once you watch those videos. Once we get you to this point, you'll be ready to start with Joe and myself and start going forward with Wealth Wednesday and start building and growing your wealth. Again, it's on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're everywhere. Clubhouse, we're everywhere. LinkedIn. You can find us either under Achievers Prep, or you can find us under It's All Education. All right, that does it for us, Joe. Say goodbye to the people.
Bye to the people.
Bye. As always, the human experience is our classroom. Life is our teacher. And at the end of the day, it's all education. Bye-bye.
Bye.